Today on Rappler. The economy may have lost around 42 to 118 billion pesos in the last 2 years due to corruption in flood control projects. Newly appointed Public Works Chief Vince Dizon suspends biddings for all locally funded infrastructure projects. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. orders, quote, necessary corrections in the 2026 budget of the DPWH. Carrying brooms, Indonesian women join protests against lawmakers' perks and police brutality. And Filipino tennis star Alex Eala beats Arian Hartono of the Netherlands at the Guadalajara Open in Mexico. The Department of Finance says the country's economy may have lost around 42.3 billion pesos to 118.5 billion pesos in the last 2 years due to corruption in flood control projects. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto discloses this figure during the second day of the Senate Finance Committee's briefing with the Development Budget Coordination Committee. He says the economic losses could have created around 95,000 to 210,000 jobs for Filipinos between 2023 and 2025. Recto says, quote, raising revenues is no joke and you see that it's not going to the right projects to benefit Filipinos. Other projects even became ghosts. Recto even said in an interview the economy may have grown faster if flood control funding had been properly used. The Marcos administration missed its economic growth target in the last 2 years. Newly appointed Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon orders a nationwide suspension of the bidding for all locally funded infrastructure projects as the agency faces scrutiny over alleged ghost flood control projects. In a press conference, Dizon says,
kailangan muna namin i-review at aralin based on the President's directive to clean house.
He adds the president made it clear that he does not want the people's money and projects to be thrown into the river again. The suspension covers all bidding for DPWH infrastructure projects, including roads and flood control across its national, regional, and district offices. Dizon also says the DPWH review team has been tasked to introduce new safeguards in the bidding process. In the same press conference, Dizon says the department has asked the Department of Justice to issue an immigration lookout bulletin order against several DPWH officials and contractors allegedly involved in ghost flood control projects. The list, which Dizon said is not yet final, was based on the ongoing Senate and House probes into the flood control controversy. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. orders Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon and Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman to review and make the necessary corrections to the proposed 2026 budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways. This amid insursions flagged by senators in the 880 billion peso proposed budget of the DPWH for 2026 and alleged anomalies in flood control projects. In a news briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says some completed DPWH projects were allotted funds in the proposed 2026 NEP, citing information from Deputy Speaker Ronaldo Puno and Marikina 1st District Representative Marcy Teodoro.
Ito po ay pag-aaralan mabuti kaya po ang DBM pati po ang DPWH ay bubusisiin po ito talaga. Kung totoo bang nagkaroon ng mga duplication, nagkaroon ng insertion, dapat po kasi matanggal ito.
Marcos issued the order 2 days after expressing concern over insertions in the 2026 National Expenditure Program, saying the budget needs to be cleaned out properly. Hundreds of women joined protests in Indonesia's capital against lawmakers' perks and police brutality, brandishing brooms as a symbol of their calls for reform. This while the president flew to China for a military parade. The Alliance of Indonesian Women say the brooms symbolize a need to, quote, sweep the state's dirt and the repressiveness of security forces. The protests that started in Jakarta last week have shaken the world's third largest democracy, spreading across the country after police vehicles struck and killed a motorcycle taxi driver on Thursday night. Rights groups say 10 people have died in the protests, which have also sparked looting and rioting. Alex Eala stays unbeaten against a familiar foe to advance to the last 16 of the Guadalajara Open in Mexico. Eala extends her winning streak over Arian Hartono of the Netherlands after her 6-2, 6-2 victory to start her campaign in the WTA 125 event at the Pan American Tennis Center in Dapitan on Wednesday, September 3, Manila time. Eala quickly took a 3-1 lead in the first set by breaking Hartono's serve twice in the first 3 games. She went on to win the match in just 1 hour and 8 minutes. This was Eala's third win over Hartono this year, after also beating her in straight sets at tournaments in Australia and India last January. Currently ranked number 75 in the world, Eala is aiming for her first WTA title, hoping to make history again after becoming the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam main draw match in the Open era. Next up for Eala in Guadalajara is American qualifier Varvara Lepchenko, who defeated Australia's Madison Inglis. And that's today's wrap. I'm Julian Cirineo. Thank you for watching. Click the link below for the full story. Follow us on Rappler's YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok.